Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. Have you ever noticed the room shift the moment you walk into it? Nothing dramatic happens. You do not raise your voice. You do not perform. You simply enter, and somehow the air changes. People sit up a little straighter. Conversations soften. Someone laughs a bit too quickly, as if checking whether it landed right. You are not trying to be intimidating. You are just being yourself. And yet, somewhere along the way, someone has looked at you and said, "I thought you didn't like me at first," or "You seem so hard to read," or the one that stings the most. "You're a little intimidating." You know that? If you have heard words like these, you already know the confusion that follows. You go home and replay the moment in your mind. What did I do? Was I too quiet? Too direct? Too much myself? Maybe you have even tried to soften it. You have practiced smiling a little wider, asking a few extra questions, laughing a little louder at the right moments, just to seem more approachable. And for a while it works, but it also leaves you feeling like you are performing a version of yourself that is not quite true, like you are apologizing for a presence you never asked for. Here is what almost nobody tells you. There is nothing wrong with you. There is a quiet psychological force moving underneath the surface of who you are, and most people have never learned how to name it, let alone understand it. It is not about your tone of voice or the words you choose. It is about the quiet, steady signals your whole being sends out before you ever open your mouth. Today, we are going to walk through 7 signs that reveal why your presence carries more weight than you realize, and why the very things that make people a little cautious around you are often the same things that make you rare. Picture a video call with 4 coworkers. The conversation stalls for a moment, maybe 3 or 4 seconds of nothing. Watch what happens. Someone glances at their phone. Someone else clears their throat and says something about the weather, or mentions they saw a headline online. Anything to fill the gap. Anything to make the silence go away. This is not random. This is biology. For most of human history, our survival depended on staying connected to the group. Silence, to an ancient brain, could mean exclusion, danger, or being forgotten. Even now, thousands of years later, an unexpected quiet moment can trigger a small alarm inside the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting threat. When the noise stops, many people lose their sense of where they stand, and they start asking themselves silent questions. Did I say something wrong? Are they annoyed with me? Am I boring them? But you do not experience silence that way. For you, a pause is not a crisis. It is a breath. It might be the space where you are turning someone's words over in your mind before answering. It might be the moment you decide there is simply nothing worth adding yet. You are not uncomfortable in the quiet because you never needed the noise to feel secure in the first place. Here is the twist. Your calm in that silence often becomes contagious pressure for everyone else. While they are scrambling to fill the gap, your steadiness stands out like a spotlight. In the unspoken language of body cues, the person who can sit inside silence without flinching is often the one who is quietly setting the pace of the whole interaction. People cannot read what is happening behind your calm expression, and that unknown can make them label you as cold, distant, or hard to approach, when really, you have just never needed sound to feel safe. Think about a first date where the conversation naturally slows down after the initial excitement fades. Most people panic in that lull and start asking rapid-fire questions just to keep the energy alive. You might just sit there, comfortable, sipping your coffee, letting the quiet exist without needing to rescue it. To someone unfamiliar with that kind of ease, it can almost feel like a test they are failing, even though you never meant it as one. Think about how quickly people bond over a shared complaint. A group chat lighting up because everyone is annoyed at the same manager. A lunch table united in gossiping about someone who just left the room. A comment section erupting together over the latest online controversy. Shared outrage is one of the fastest glue guns in human connection. When a group reacts together, they are quietly telling each other, "I feel what you feel. I am one of you. I belong here." When you do not join in, you are not rejecting the people. You are simply refusing to let a story that has nothing to do with your life pull your emotions around like a leash. You take in the information. You stay curious instead of reactive. You do not throw in a comment just to keep the fire burning. To people who bond through instant agreement and shared outbursts, your neutrality can feel disorienting. They cannot use gossip to hook your attention. They cannot use a rumor to summon your anger on command. And a person who cannot be emotionally recruited on demand is often mistaken for someone who is judging from a distance, when in truth, you have simply built a wall between your peace and other people's noise. Picture a new group project at work. Within the first meeting, two colleagues start quietly venting about how the deadline is unrealistic and how leadership never listens. Everyone nods along, eager to belong to the shared frustration. You listen, you acknowledge the concern, but you do not add your own complaint just to fit in. Later, when the group needs someone clear-headed to actually solve the problem, they turn to you, not realizing that your refusal to join the venting earlier is exactly what kept your judgment intact. There is an unspoken script most people follow in daily conversation. How are you? Good. You? Good. Just busy. These exchanges are social autopilot. They keep things light. They protect people from having to reveal too much too soon. But when you sit down across from someone, that script rarely satisfies you. Not because you are impatient or rude, but because your mind is already reaching for something real. Imagine meeting someone new at a friend's dinner party. Instead of asking what they do for work, you might ask, what made you choose that path in the first place? Instead of how's your week going, you might ask, what's been sitting heaviest on your mind lately? Neuroscience suggests that some minds are simply wired to process conversation at a deeper layer than the surface. Your brain does not stop at small talk. It automatically searches for the center of things. For the other person, this can feel like being caught off guard. They prepared a polished, safe answer, and suddenly that script no longer works. They have to think. They have to be more honest than they planned to be. Even though your question came from genuine curiosity, it can feel, to them, like being seen before they were ready to be seen. Picture a disagreement with a family member over the dinner table. Voices start to rise. Words come faster. Emotion takes the wheel. Psychologists call this emotional mirroring. When someone is upset with you, part of them unconsciously expects you to match their intensity. That mirrored reaction, even if it is also anger, gives them a strange kind of comfort. It tells them, you are affecting me. My feelings make sense. I am being heard. But you rarely offer that mirror. While the other person's amygdala takes the wheel, flooding them with heat and urgency, something different happens in you. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and self-control, stays active and steady. Your voice slows down instead of speeding up. You separate the emotion from the actual issue. You look for the root cause instead of adding fuel to a fire that is already burning too hot. This mismatch can be maddening for the other person. Your calm creates a visible gap between how they are reacting and how you are responding, and instead of reading that as strength, they may interpret it as arrogance or indifference. They expected a mirror. Instead, they got a mountain, still, unmoved, and unmistakably present. Imagine a heated moment with a partner over something as small as forgotten plans. Their voice climbs. Yours does not. You ask a clarifying question instead of firing back a defense. In that moment, it is not that you feel nothing. It is that you have learned how to hold the feeling without letting it drive the conversation off a cliff. That kind of composure, hard-won and quietly practiced, can be mistaken for not caring enough, when it is often proof of caring enough to stay level-headed. From an early age, many of us are taught that saying no makes us selfish, difficult, or unkind. So people develop elaborate ways to avoid saying it plainly. They wrap a refusal in apologies, layer it with excuses, and promise to make it up next time, all in an effort to soften a truth they are afraid to say directly. You tend to operate differently. Somewhere in building your own sense of self, you learned exactly where your limits sit, your time, your energy, your patience. When a request crosses that line, you say no, clearly, calmly, without needing to build a case for why you are allowed to protect your own peace, For someone used to negotiating past a soft refusal, your firm no leaves, no room to maneuver. Their usual persuasion tactics simply do not find a foothold. And because that kind of boundary is rare, they may mistake it for rigidity or coldness, when really, it is one of the clearest forms of self-respect a person can practice. In most group settings, people are quietly managing their own image. They are thinking about what to say next, when to laugh, how to appear confident or likable. Because so much of their attention is turned inward, they miss the small details happening around them. You are often doing the opposite. Because you are not racing to perform, you have more room to observe. Before you say a word, you have already picked up on things most people overlook. A flicker of hesitation before someone answers a question. A smile that does not quite reach the eyes. The subtle shift in someone's posture when a certain topic comes up. The story someone is carefully avoiding telling. You are not trying to catch anyone. Your mind simply reads the room before it speaks. But for the people around you, that quiet awareness can feel unsettling. Humans are deeply sensitive to being watched, even when nothing is said aloud. Someone trying to hold together a certain image in front of others may feel, almost instinctively, that you can see past the performance. That feeling of being gently seen through, even without judgment, can create an invisible discomfort that has nothing to do with anything you have actually said. Think of a family gathering where one relative keeps insisting everything is fine, even though their tone tightens every time a certain subject comes up. Everyone else moves past it, caught up in their own conversations. You notice. You do not necessarily say anything, but something in your steady, attentive presence tells that person you have registered what they tried to hide, and that alone can make them feel exposed in a room where they were trying so hard to appear unbothered. This might be the deepest root of everything we have covered so far. So much of daily life runs on an unspoken exchange. I will approve of you if you approve of me. Compliments, nods, likes, followers, praise. For many people, this outside validation becomes a quiet foundation for their entire sense of worth. And because that need runs so deep, people often shape and reshape themselves just to keep the approval flowing. You seem to need that exchange far less. Carl Jung described a process called individuation, the lifelong work of integrating every part of yourself, even the uncomfortable parts, into one honest, whole person. Somewhere along your path, you began building your value from the inside instead of borrowing it from outside reactions. You know your own capabilities. You know which principles you will not compromise. You have made peace with the parts of yourself that are still imperfect, because your sense of worth is not on loan from other people's opinions. The usual tools of social pressure, quiet exclusion, sarcastic comments, disapproving looks, simply do not land on you the way they land on others. This can leave people unsure how to read you. In psychology, this often triggers something called projection. When someone still depends heavily on outside approval, standing near someone who clearly does not need it can stir up their own insecurity. And without realizing it, they project that discomfort onto you, mistaking your peace for arrogance, when it is actually the opposite. Consider someone who posts every achievement online, waiting anxiously for likes and comments to feel validated in their choices. Now imagine you, quietly building your own life, rarely announcing your wins, simply because you do not need an audience to know your worth. To that person, your quiet confidence might look like superiority. In reality, it is simply the outcome of no longer needing anyone's permission to feel enough. If you recognize yourself in these 7 signs, if you have been called intimidating, unreadable, or too much, hear this clearly. There is nothing broken in you that needs fixing. You do not need to shrink your stillness to make others more comfortable. You do not need to fill every silence, chase every rumor, soften every no, or perform for approval you were never asking for in the first place. What people are reacting to is not a flaw. It is the presence of a person who has done the quiet work of becoming whole. You cannot control how every person responds to that wholeness, and you do not need to. The people who are also doing their own inner work will recognize what your calm actually means. They will lean in, not away. And if someone still feels unsettled around you, It may simply be a mirror reflecting your own unfinished journey, not a judgment on yours. Which of these 7 signs do you recognize most in yourself? Tell me in the comments below. And if you know someone who has spent their whole life being misunderstood for simply being honestly themselves, send this to them today. I am reclaiming my peace.